As four-wheel drivers and enthusiasts, we are always looking for ways to create, customise and improve our vehicles. This is my solution to a previously wasted space. There are always pros and cons to modifying your vehicle, and for me, I created a drawback in my cargo area by fitting a custom set of drawers and fridge box. This is the wasted space between the fridge box and the rear cargo window. This is such a wasted space. Although roomy, it is very hard to access and efficiently stack your gear. So I've completed some custom modifications along with some DIY methods to transform the space into an easy and organised area for a cargo space. Stay tuned, let's find out how. So g'day guys and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode we're going to be talking about the custom storage solution that I've come up with to suit the rear cargo area, specifically this quarter panel in my 200 series Landcruiser. So we're going to talk about the design and some of the accessories that I've mounted inside this box, along with how I went about building it, and share some of the tips and tricks I picked up along the way. So as shown, today we're going to be talking about the storage solution in this rear cargo area. Access to this area is provided through the EmuWing system. Now I've already done a detailed and thorough review on the EmuWing product itself, and EmuWing, even having its issues, has created a very easy way to access this area of that rear cargo space. So access to this particular area here has been severely hindered when I chose to go with this particular drawer and fridge box setup. Now don't get me wrong, this setup has and is still an awesome setup, however everything does come with some sort of compromise. Now being a family of four and still awaiting the arrival of our new van, every inch of space in this back area matters and is normally full of gear. So having this area down here, which was hard to organise and hard to access, was becoming increasingly frustrating. So let's go back in time and I'll show you how I went about designing and building this box to suit this area. I started by mocking up a wooden box to fit the space between the existing fridge box and the quarter panel. This consisted of many hours of measuring, cutting cardboard templates and trimming panels to achieve the best contours to use this space. Now I did use MDF wood for this project, and if I had my time again I would definitely be using some form of plywood. However, this is what I had available to me at the time. Once I was happy with the design, I painted it with some undercoat to seal the unit and painted the joins and edges with black paint to ensure any potential gaps in the carpet would not be obvious. Now in order to flush mount the box to the brackets, I used countersunk head bolts screwing up into the base of the box. However, I didn't want the threads exposed inside and potentially damaging items in storage. I use these parts called T-nuts. They are countersunk flat nuts that pull against the mounting surface when tightened, making them a strong and clean solution to glue carpet over. I also used a set of these in the backing of the box to mount a further set of angle brackets to create a shelf or false floor within the unit. I managed to find the exact brand and colour of carpet used in the original drawer build, and now I just have to figure out a way to effectively glue the carpet to the box. Now I tried a few different methods, however I found a method that appeared to have worked well. Using contact fix adhesive, a paint tray and a foam roller with spare foam, and basic tools like a staple gun, pliers and large Phillips head screwdriver, I was able to glue all the carpet down. I would test fit the carpet into the space to be worked on and prepare the area by ensuring that both the carpet backing and the mounting area were clean. I poured some of the contact adhesive into the paint tray and used the foam roller to apply the glue in both the carpet and the box, just like you would painting a wall. This provided an even coat with full coverage on both surfaces. The only negative to this method was the foam roller would only last about 5 to 10 minutes before tearing apart, but at only a couple of dollars each, having a few rollers is well worth the compromise. Waiting the recommended 5 minutes or so for both surfaces to become tacky, I then applied the carpet to the box, and the adhesive allows for movement and reapplication if the alignment is not correct. However, once pressure has been applied, the glue does its job and can make it difficult to remove. Once happy with the alignment, pressure is applied, and in this case using a rolling pin. The large flat areas are easy, but I found the easiest way to achieve a tight corner is to use a Phillips head screwdriver to press and dig into the corners. This creased the carpet and worked very well in this instance. I repeated these steps for all carpeted areas. Once all the surfaces were complete, the unit was left to dry for a few hours, and on return I was able to trim and cut off the excess to reveal a tidy and clean looking finish. Once the carpet was complete, the final fitment of the interior angle brackets and permanent short shelf on the left side was fitted to the box. I created a removable shelf or false floor within the box to be able to store items that may not be used as often underneath. The next step was to start mounting some of the hardware I wanted to include within the box. This started with a small interior 12-volt light by Narva, which was mounted to a narrow top piece of the box. A central hole was drilled for the wiring, and a light is fitted, screwed straight into the wood and finished with some matching trim pieces. I tidied the wiring up by fixing some split conduit over the cables and securing them with some fixed plastic brackets. I then moved on to installing dual torch mounts and chargers onto the right hand side. These are made by LED Lenser, and although not the only or best manufacturer out there, these mounts were some of the toughest and most solid units that included a charging function and would hold up to the corrugations of four-wheel driving scenarios we plan on taking them through. The mounts were fitted by 2 screws and a single hole under each to feed the wiring through. The electrical panel was simply created by drawing out the size of the accessories to be fitted onto both a wooden and acrylic backing. The wooden backing would be used to create the space and the rigidity behind the 45-degree mounted panel, and the acrylic panel would just provide the finishing aesthetics. Using a jigsaw to cut out the design, the panel is screwed into the box ready for wiring. So this brings us here. The box is complete and ready to be fitted into the vehicle. So let's go over some of the features while it's still out of the car. Now firstly, you can see a small material loop fitted to that false floor infill panel, and that's going to help us be able to pull and grab out that false floor when it's installed in the vehicle. Secondly, you can see the type of 90-degree brackets that I've used are just a plain 90-degree bracket without the support leg that goes across on the 45-degree angle. This is going to give us the most amount of room within that lower storage area and make it a very efficient and helpful storage space. So moving on to my control panel, you can see at the top there we fitted a Toyota digital water tank level. This is going to show us the level of water within the tanks, and that's something I'm going to be talking about in a future video. Underneath that, we can see the projector remote control, and this is going to control the newly mounted 1000 watt projector 240 volt inverter. Now underneath that, we just have a standard 2-switch 240 volt GPO block. Now next to the Toyota water tank level, we have 2 standard 12 volt rocker switches. One is going to control the charging for the torches mounted within this box, and the other is going to switch on and off the interior light within this storage area. Now these switches are just a basic switch. They can handle up to about 20 amps of power, and therefore none of these circuits are going to need relays today. Now all the wiring for this is run behind the control panel, down through a slot in that fixed section of the false floor, and then down through the lower compartment to exit the box at the bottom corner. Just a quick reminder, all the gear that I've used in this video, including all those electrical components, will be listed in the description below if you are interested in checking them out for yourself. Now there are several elements to the wiring loom, but I've tried to keep it as simple and as basic as possible. And although I don't plan on removing this storage box in the future, I wanted to keep that option available if I have to do routine maintenance or repairs. So we can see here the majority of the loom, which includes 3 negative and 3 positive terminals, are run through a standard 6-pin Narva automotive block. This is going to allow us to plug in power for the USB ports, the water tank level, and the interior light. Now we also have a single red cable exposed, and that is going to be directed to the USB ports, which are mounted exterior to this box, however controlled by the switch mounted on that control panel. We obviously have that 240 volt outlet, which is going to plug into an extension cable running from the 240 volt inverter. So we also have 2 data type cables. The first one is a 3-prong, and this is going to control the power and the data for the digital water tank level. The second one is just a standard Ethernet cable, and this is going to provide power and the information relating to the inverter to the remote control display mounted inside this unit. So on the back here we can see some of those T-nuts. Now these T-nuts are a flush mounted system that allows us to use standard metric bolts from the other side without leaving the exposed nuts and bolts and threads sticking out on the back side here. Now mounting these flush mounts on the back here means that this box is going to sit nice and flush against the fridge box, not provide any rubbing, damage, or any extra gap that's unneeded. We've also used these T-nuts in the lower section of the base, where the bolts are going to screw up into the base of the box, holding it down to the brackets within the vehicle. Now there also is a small metal tab on the front of this box, and that's going to hold and support the front wing top cover, but I'll show you that once we have the box installed. So finishing up, the weight of this box as we see it here with those accessories mounted is about 11 kilos. So let's move over to the Cruiser now, where I can show you how I've mounted all the accessories and all the plugs ready for the installation of this storage unit. Firstly, we can see the standard angle brackets here attached to the side of the drawer systems. These brackets are the standard items that came with the custom installation system and will be the mount for this box. Now, the majority of the wiring is already set up and placed underneath where the box is going to be mounted. But in order to get power here from the front of the vehicle, I had a positive and negative mains that run straight down from the battery and plugged into a Narva 6-terminal fuse block. This enables me to have 6 individually fused positive terminals as well as 2 banks of 3-port negative terminals. Now, this Narva fuse block is going to power primarily the 6-pin Narva plug that is going to provide power to most of the accessories in the storage unit. Now, conveniently, the data cable for the water flow meter is mounted directly underneath where this box is going to be, so that's going to be a nice and easy plug. We can also see that the 240 volt extension cable from the inverter mounted at the rear of the drawer system up here is already placed there as well. Now, the only wire that isn't going to be plugged in directly underneath the box is the Ethernet cable. This is going to be run down the side of the drawer system and plug into the back of the inverter here, and still be a very easily removed item in the case that the box needs to be removed. Now, that single red wire is also going to provide power to the USB ports, and they are mounted on the rear of the side of the drawer system here, enabling those torch mounts which are mounted to the front of the box to be plugged directly in underneath. So now that I've shown you how all this is going to work, let's grab that box over here and start installing the system. The installation is straightforward. Securing the countersunk bolts into the base, firmly securing the box down, and then plugging in the wiring looms. The open area at the front provides a perfect access area to connect these looms together. I run the USB cables down to the rear and plug them into the dual USB port and connect the Ethernet cable to the inverter. It's now time to mount the existing fridge box, placing the brackets and securing them into the drawer system. So I also mounted a single T-nut into the rear main pane of the box, and this will allow for a single wing nut to be used to connect and firmly secure the fridge box to the window storage box. The newly made half wing top can be fitted, which finishes off this area nicely. With the box mounted and installed now, it's now time to go test it for a weekend out on the tracks. Then I'll come back and show you all the accessories and how they all work when they're wired up. So after coming back from a weekend on the tracks, I have to say the box performed very, very well. It didn't rattle, move or shift around at all in the back of the Cruiser, and everything stayed nice and protected. Having a unit like this is going to enable me to store a lot of smaller, more delicate items away from some of the larger storage items that we generally keep in the rear cargo area. It's going to allow me to access them very quickly and conveniently anytime on the side of the road. So the water tank gauge on this control panel lets me know exactly how much water is in my vehicle's onboard tanks at any time. And given the fact we're using a flow meter rather than a general float, it's going to provide an accurate reading regardless of what angle the vehicle's on. This is something we're going to go into a little bit more detail in a separate video in regards to my water storage solutions. Now, the torches remain very solid on their fixed mounting supports on the right hand side of this box. A quick flick of that rocker switch as well, and both of those torches are receiving power and charging up either whilst on the road or parked up at camp. Now, I did choose the LED Lensa torches specifically for their mounts in regards to how strong and rigid they were, and the fact they also incorporate charging into them as well. Now, links will be in the description below as to where you can pick these up yourself if you are interested in them. Now, the newly mounted 1000 watt inverter, which has been fitted behind the fridge slide, can also be remotely controlled by this panel here. This enables me to turn on and off the inverter remotely and also see things like the voltage of the battery, the amount of watts being drawn, and the percentage load being placed onto the inverter. Now, incorporating a false floor or shelf into this unit has also become very handy. We can use that area to store things that might not be used so often, things like belts, hoses and filters, things that you just don't need to get to on a regular basis. However, it's going to be nice and protected and still yet reasonably convenient to access underneath that false floor. So I'm yet to determine exactly what type of gear I'm going to store inside this storage box. It's going to take a few trips to experiment and play around with some different options to determine what I need to access easily and quickly when we're loaded up for a camping trip. Now, whatever equipment I do choose to use inside this storage unit, I'm going to be utilizing vertical storage as well by using mounts, Velcro or some sort of straps to hold things against the rear wall, as well as stacking up on this bottom shelf. Having that small half wing at the front also enables us to keep our first aid kit and fire extinguishers along with other important items that we might need to access quickly in the case of an emergency. Now, inside the rear of the vehicle, we still end up with a very versatile and customizable storage area that's still going to work very, very well. This particular storage unit doesn't interfere with that space too much, and we still have access to the full area on top of the fridge box. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I hope I was able to bring you some ideas to effectively and efficiently store some of the items in your rear cargo area, whether it be through a storage unit like this and an EmuWing system or just in the rear of your vehicle. Now, I'll be sure to link all of the items that I used in the description below if you are looking for anything in particular yourself. Otherwise, guys, if you have any questions or queries, make sure to get in contact, but we'll be sure to see you in the next episode. Cheers.